It is preparing the live stream. Okay,
All set?
you are all set.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, welcome everybody to the Town of Henrietta Planning Board Workshop for Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. Members present, Matt Borkowski, Lawrence Neal, Stephen McIntyre, Patricia Brill, Rick Page, Craig Eckert, Planning Board Attorney Daniel Mastrella, and Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning, representing the town. First item on the agenda this evening are the minutes from the July 28th, 2020 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill. Do I have a sufficient second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. First item on the agenda this evening is application number 20008 Silver Roll Trucking for final site plan approval of a replacement commercial trucking building located at 85 Silver Roll Drive in an industrial mixed-use zoned district. Who is here representing the applicant this evening, please?
There are a number of us.
Great. If you're going to be presenting, I will have you please sign in over, I think the sheet's over there. And if you have a business card, you may leave that, please.
And if you could kindly state your name for the minutes.
I'm Scott Parker. I'm the site engineer. With me is Dave Strable, architect,
Could you just make sure that you're speaking in the mic because we're streaming this?
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
Is that better?
Yeah.
And if you could please repeat your name again.
I'm sorry.
Repeat your name again for me.
My first name is Scott, and my last name is Harter, H-A-R-T-E-R.
Thank you.
So we're presenting plans for essentially a replacement trucking business.
I'm sorry, we can't hear.
Oh, yeah, you do
yeah.
have to hold that very close.
We are presenting plans for a, can you hear that?
Close. Yep.
For a replacement trucking business. Neil and I worked together some 20 years ago when his first trucking business went in on Silver Roll Drive. He has since sold that to Casella Waste Systems. We created another lot from his holdings there of approximately 5.5 acres on which he proposes to construct a replacement building. Neil is here to answer any questions you may have about the operation of this building. Dave can also speak in more detail about the building, its style, its architecture. I can certainly give you an overview as to the site, which is approximately 5.5 acres, of which we're impacting 3 acres, approximately 3 acres disturbance. The building is approximately 13,000 square feet in area. We have gone through our submittal to the town and received comments from the Conservation Board at their most recent meeting. Some of those comments aligned with the landscape comments that we got from Stantec concerning planting details and a few items relative to landscaping. We can certainly make those modifications. We received comments from Chris, technical comments as well. I went through those comments today, received them yesterday. I believe that we can address all of Chris's technical comments as well. I don't believe that Monroe County Planning had any comments for us that I saw, although we did submit to them. And the only other comment that I remember coming across was one that Chris came up with, I think, which concerned SHPO and archaeological, and we have submitted to the State Historic Preservation Office, and we did receive a letter of no impact from them. So
Scott, I do have information here from Monroe County
you do? Okay.
Scott, I'll give you a copy. Take a
dated
look
August
at it.
5th.
Okay. I did not receive anything from them, so if there's something there that's relevant, I'd be happy to. Okay. We'd be happy to integrate these comments in with the final plans.
There's one area of note highlighted, number 11, regarding the oil separator.
Yes, we show an oil separator on our plans, and I believe Dave is going to be the person who designs it. Would you like to know more specifically?
On the Monroe County notes, it just indicates if you have included one, please provide plumbing, floor
Yes, we
plans, et
have, and I
cetera.
think Chris may have made a comment about the calculations that you'd like to
Perfect.
see.
That was the only thing highlighted on there.
Was there any other part that you wanted to present this evening, or are we able to open it up to the board if you're ready for that?
I think that's all I have to really say about the site. If the board has any questions regarding the proposed business, which is essentially a duplicate of what was there, or the architecture, I think Neil and Dave would also like to come up and speak with you.
Sure. All right. We can start with the board. I'll start with Mr. Page.
Thank you. I know that you said you could address all the comments, but I have just a couple questions.
Okay.
One of the things under general too, it says additional information will be required to determine the required number of parking spaces. Such as what information, Chris?
Yeah, well, I think, for example, because of the square footage, I think because we have an office in the front, there's a square footage calculation based on that. And then there's one for whether it's a warehouse, storage, whatever you're doing in there, Neil. We'll just need to see the calculations for that. I mean, certainly the site is big enough to accommodate any parking. So if you don't need the spaces, you can always land bank them.
This is almost a duplicate of what we built in 2000. The parking spaces, the square footage, everything is pretty much the same.
Okay.
You have a grease separator. Everything is, I more or less duplicated everything that we had in 20, unless some rules changed or laws changed. It's pretty much a duplicate of what I had before. And I have less trucks now than I had before. I sold, you probably already know, I sold the place across the street to Casella.
Yeah.
The transfer station, I sold them. Then they wanted my office, and they're in a feeding frenzy, and I had to hand out. So I'm a happy camper, but I want to keep a few trucks because of my kids. So I don't even know why I'm looking for building that big. I have plenty of room now. And I more or less took the same building, moved down.
So just, again, just look at the calculations to see if it makes sense, or not makes sense, but just elaborate on them, Scott. That's, I think, all that we were looking for.
Yep. We used the formula, I think, that we used with the original building where there was a certain number of parking stalls required based on the office area. And then we just estimated the parking stalls for the remainder of the building. And then the parking stalls that are on the north and south sides of the parking area are largely there, not because they're required, but because it seems that they become used by the tractors.
Sure.
But that's essentially the parking design, but we can certainly revisit the figures if you'd like us to do so.
Yeah, I think Roland has some calculations in there or some comments and.
Yep, we had plenty of parking before, plenty of parking, so, and there's gonna be less, well, they're going by square footage though. Even though don't have as many vehicles, they're going by square footage, so I understand that. So, but that's something that the architect or
We can
engineer
work
can
that out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at down the line, Neil, if you ever sold.
If I sold it,
to somebody else.
because between you and I have a right of first refusal, if you know what that means. If I go to sell it, I gotta sell it to Casella. They have right of first refusal on it. That was part of the deal I made with them when I kept the 5.5 acres in the rear.
If I can make a quick comment, because you guys are off camera, if you two gentlemen, as you you might want to pass that back and forth, but if you do, just say who you are.
Hang on one second. Anybody else want to talk?
No, I'm just saying if you do that and you take the mic, even if it's you again, say
Yeah,
your
we'll
name
just have
before
to
you speak.
change the
Okay.
cover to it.
Okay, what else?
Okay, in this building, it's not open to the general public. This is a private,
No, it's not.
do they need handicap spaces? Yeah,
Well, we had a handicap sidewalk in the front in the old building, and I suppose I assume we still have that in this one here, in case somebody comes in, a salesman comes in, he's handicapped. It had handicap bathrooms in it.
We show it on our plans.
okay,
We just need the signage, that's all.
okay.
And I have last building had 4 handicap parking slots out in front, but they'll determine how many we gotta have.
A lot of times, applicants will bring in samples of the colors or materials or things you're going to use. I know that Chris requested a letter provided to the town to state the colors and building materials. That's not stated anywhere. Oh. Yeah, I didn't get this review letter. Okay,
Keep in mind, if you're going to speak, if you grab that microphone and say who you are, that'd be helpful. Thanks.
no,
Well, they're both wearing masks though, Chris. You still have to?
Oh,
Yeah, they're
Dave
both wearing
Strabel, the
masks.
architect.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Dave Strabel. I'm the architect. And the colors, I don't have a rendering with me with colors on it, but it's gray concrete block on the bottom half and light gray metal panels on the upper half. The windows are going to be a dark bronze. And then their current building has red in it. We're not doing red again, but their sign is red. And I think we did show on your front elevation there, we're just moving the sign over to this building.
okay.
It was noted that there's the fire department connection is not designated on the plan. That has to be added.
Yeah, there will be a sprinkler in this building because his garage bay is over 5,000 square foot, so it
Good.
needs to have fire sprinkler.
Okay.
And so there will be a fire department connection on the front of the building. So it's likely that we may have to stripe out one of those parking spots. So for clarification, when we address this parking with Chris, we'll go through the counts again and show that it meets the code for the office space versus the garage bay, and that we've got adequate, even if we have to stripe out one in front of the fire department connection.
Okay.
Or we just move the handicap one over there, the handicap access aisle too. I mean, it's possible because it's not too far from the front door anyway.
Okay. I understand there's going to be a backflow. I understand there's going to be an oil separator, of course, with the trucks. Is a black backflow preventer scheduled to be put?
Yeah.
Okay,
The
good.
domestic water is 1.5 inches. It'll have a Watts 909 RPZ. And then the sprinkler also has a DCDA backflow double check valve. I have not applied to the water authority for that yet because I kind of wanted to see if we were going to be approved to build a building first. Then we would pay the $350 and go to the water authority.
Okay. I guess that's the major ones that I had. There's a lot of comments about the landscape plan and having a landscape architect sign off on it and 6 to 8 inches of topsoil and all that. That's an emphasis that this planning board is really working on in the future about the look and feel of our community. I think that's it for me, Mr. Gruner. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Page, thank you. Mr. McIntyre. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're welcome.
Scott, I'm sorry, the architect.
Yes, I'm the engineer. Dave's the architect.
I didn't quite get is the coloring of this building and the material similar to the existing building?
No, the existing building has got a dark red painted concrete block. And then the metal is like dark brown.
Could you do us a favor and use this to kind of describe exactly how the coloring is going to be? Yeah. So So the bottom half is concrete block, and it will be gray concrete block. The upper half is pre-engineered metal building. So they need dark gray, light gray, and the windows will be almost black. That's what we call it, black, but it's almost black. What about the top? What about the top cap there? The charcoal gray for the roof. So it's all gray. So three different shades of gray. Yeah. Must have been in the Navy, right? And you're going to do a stormwater pollution prevention plan for this project?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay. Is that already started? Have you done the NOI and?
Yes, we have it largely complete. Our drainage design is based on all that. We simply hadn't submitted it yet. We did submit our drainage report. However, that substantiated the design that's shown on the plans. The SWPPP is, as you may or may not know, it's a lot of additional documentation that goes in there regarding all types of things. So we're happy to provide that. We have no problem.
You didn't see any erosion control issues in relation to the creek or?
No, Red Creek is, the shoreline of Red Creek is a state wetland, and there's a 100-foot buffer from that wetland that we have adhered to. And just on our side of that 100-foot buffer is where our silt fence will reside. The bioretention area that we're proposing to install is a significant buffer for stormwater coming off the site. The site is designed largely to sheet flow into that, where much of it is absorbed, and what isn't absorbed just basically trickles out of it. So, in conformance with the regulations, we have a very tight stormwater design.
Okay. I think I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Chair will recognize Mr. Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I had a question about the actual application, just for a clarification. It does describe it as being a replacement building. Now, is that just to replace what you built in 2000 or whatever it was? Or you're not, you're not knocking down a building?
No, my business was at 85 Silver Grove Drive, and I had another 8 acres next to it. I had 13 acres total. I kept 5 of it, and 5 and a half of it for a replacement building. When I say replacement, I just moved my business down the road.
Okay. So you really aren't replacing something. In your own mind, you were
Yeah,
replacing.
in my own mind, I replaced it. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so we can eliminate that confusion. There's nothing going down.
Yes, and I'm just moving down the street and I'm trying to build the same house that I had before.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. As far as the landscaping is concerned, you're going to get a certified nursery.
Yes, the landscaping plan was prepared by Doug McCord, who's a licensed landscape architect. And so we will return to Doug to add the remaining items that have been asked of us to put on the plan, some of which came from your reviewer and some of which came from your conservation board.
Okay. From Santec, we did get a report, and they had a couple of notations that what you were proposing did not meet the recommendation. You're aware of those, and you'll pass that on to the new
Yes.
people so they can comply.
Yes, and they will adjust accordingly.
All
Yes.
right. And the last thing I think I have is that we do require a SWIPS for this. Is that in the works, or a SWIPS?
Yes, I believe that's what we were speaking about just a few minutes
You do
ago.
have that, or we do have it?
We've submitted the drainage report component of the SWIP, and we will submit the entire SWIP along with our responses back to Chris.
Okay, can we do a seeker without that, or? We're okay with that? Okay. All set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Chair will recognize Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. Everything I have been previously addressed. Thank you.
Very good. Chair will recognize Mr. Borkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
There's a note here about the archaeological sense of sensitivity? Do you have the assessment or are you going to do an assessment on that?
We submitted under the CRIS program that they have,
Hold that microphone closer.
under the CRIS program that they have, which is Cultural Resource, I forget the rest of it, information. We submitted a couple months ago on that, and we got a letter of no impact from them, which I will provide to you folks.
Excellent. And, we all like to be good neighbors, and I know where you guys are. This is actually a good project for where you are.
Right.
However, in the southwest corner, you do have some of the RIT and some of the nicer ones. So what's the view from RIT going to be of this facility? Have we looked at that?
I can't say that I've examined the views from RIT, no.
We're talking way back in the corner, there are trees around us. In the fall.
Neil, identify yourself again, if you could, please, before you talk.
What's that?
Just identify yourself again for the record.
In the back, there's trees back there, and bushes and everything else. It's pretty hard to even see us back there. You can't see us from John Street, which is the street behind us. But that's about it.
Okay, yeah, and I can see it here. I got a satellite photo. It's just that those buildings at RIT are pretty high. So being on that top floor, can you just see the tip of the roof from when you're on the ground in your property?
When in the fall you can.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not going to have this monstrosity there, but then again, they're college kids. I don't know how much they really care. Another thing with final, we do like to see some actual materials. I know that we're in a different time and place right now, so I'm not going to scrutinize it too much. Also with where this is, I'm not too worried. However, I just want to defer to Chris. Are you okay with the materials that they're proposing to use? Because we're talking about block and metal, and sometimes with that, it's not a cool thing with us.
Yeah, Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning. I mean, what we could do is, after tonight, if the architect wanted us to provide us with a colored rendering, we can review that internally with maybe some of the top planning board members.
So we could make something conditional on a color rendering that we all have to go thumbs up on.
Right. But no, the building materials are very straightforward.
Our building is kind of, as I noticed, up in front of us at the beginning of the street is the Duke Company. And the black and the steel are almost the same color as what as the building at the beginning of the street.
Yeah, and as much as we as a board try to stay very consistent with making sure you have those materials, once again, you're in a very unique location where I wouldn't scrutinize it too much, but I do still want to see
Not too many people go down there.
I've been down there twice ever, and it's because I'm part of.
That's the Lover's Lane. What are you doing down there?
So I think I'm good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. The chair will recognize Mr. Eckert.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
I have a couple of quick questions to go back real quick, though, from a text from Jenny. Jenny, they were referring to the architect SK2 sketch when they were referring to the sides of the building, okay?
Easy, Craig.
Sanitary connection. Is this a private sanitary or public?
No, it's a dedicated sanitary sewer.
It's dedicated without an easement?
It's on easement.
I'm sorry?
It's on easement.
Yes,
It's on an easement? I don't see an easement on the plan.
it's in the subdivision plan.
Might be on the sheet one
Okay.
of our drawing set.
So and the tie-ins has to come to a manhole now, right? Pure Waters?
No, that's our requirement.
I
But
thought it
yes,
was a
so
Pure Waters.
well, the sanitary lateral has to connect to, for larger establishments, they have to connect to a sanitary sewer. So you could do one of two things. Either put a new sanitary manhole in or connect to the existing one that's just to the south.
And that's okay.
So the oil water separator that's on the west-hand side will come out of that building from via what, a trench drain?
Out of the back, we do like we did last building. It comes across the back to the north, then all the way out to the street, right for the driveway, under the street, and connects to the sewer line.
So the oil water separator that's on the west-hand side will connect to the sewer line that's going across the north.
Then the storm sewer, I believe, is on the other side, on the closer side of the street, which would be the west side.
Yeah, but you don't have any connections to that, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
So, and then going back to the SWIP, which you developed, you have a green infrastructure here, but I don't see any other quantity calculations or anything else for,
We submitted a drainage report along with our plans to Chris, and if that's okay, we'll add the other items for the SWPPP. But the design that you see on our plans, the bioretention and everything, is based on, you know, the sheet flow from the majority of the site tilted, if you will,
right?
towards the creek into essentially a forebay, and then into the bioretention pond, and then
There's a forebay here?
essentially the first 20 feet is a depression that functions like a forebay, yes.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I'm confused as to why, I mean, this is quality, but not quantity.
Well, the bioretention pond is sized in such a way that it absorbs so much water that all the quantity issues have been resolved as
And
well.
and you've done perks out there for that?
Yes. Mhm.
Next to Red Creek in a wetland?
Well, not in the wetland. We have.
You're at 523, the wetland's 521.
I'm trying to.
I'm just looking at this going, I don't know where the water's going, and I mean, for quality and quantity, you're draining it into a green infrastructure item, but
Yeah, well, and certainly when the SWIP is prepared and submitted to our consultant, Vanguard Engineering, they'll review all this, and whatever modifications have to be made to the plan will have to be completed before we'll sign off on the drawings.
If I could just respond to that. If you take a look at our design and the bioretention design, you'll see that there's an outlet to the bio that comes out around 520. Yes, that is below the 100-year flood elevation, but I'm not aware that we cannot discharge in that particular fashion.
okay. But again, you're looking for this to take absorption.
Right.
And it's not very high above the wetland. So again, with a perk test, you would have found out if you could or could not perk.
Well, our elevation there is at 523.8 according to our spot elevations, and the 100-year floodplain is at 522.
Right. So this thing hypothetically, especially from Red Creek, has the ability to backfill.
Under a 100-year storm, it would backfill, yes.
Right. Okay. Then lighting's already just building mounted. I saw, it looks like 4 building mounts going around north, south, east, west.
That's all we're showing at this time. I spoke to Neil about maybe showing pole mounted lighting, but they indicated that they didn't want any pole mounted lighting.
Okay. Yeah, you can get good LEDs these days that will light up that whole thing. And this entire parking lot is planned to be paved.
I'd like to let it settle for a year or two before I pave it, like I did with the last one. I put millings in it and rolled them, and after, it took me about 2 years and the truck's packing it down, and then I paved it. But I could pave it sooner.
No, that's probably just be part of the letter of credit, right, Chris?
Typically, the letter of credit doesn't cover parking areas. It's mostly lighting, landscaping, utilities like sanitary water. If the board wants to make that a condition, or we can just hold.
Building, but
Yeah.
I guess it's up to the board.
That's fine. No, I'm not looking to change the procedure.
No, I think we're okay. Certainly,
They're
you know,
just showing
where it
edge of
is.
pavement, and it just looks like obviously a huge amount to pave.
Mhm. Well, and again, Neil, you paved the last one, correct?
Oh, yes, I paved
That
the
was
last one,
very
the whole
similar
thing.
square footage.
It's almost identical.
And then, of course, the stormwater pond will be designed, or facility will be designed based on that being paved instead of like a gravel or mill.
Right.
Okay. And then the only other comment is to the architect for the comment for the DCDA. This is probably draftable. So it'll be an RPDA. Red Creek's got to be draftable at that point.
Can you give them the microphone, please?
And Dave, please re-announce your name. Thank you.
Dave Strabel.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, those are the questions that I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Any other final questions or comments from the board? Mr. Neal?
Just a quick question, going back to the building materials. The block that you're going to use is like an architectural block? as opposed to a flat block.
Split base.
Okay. And that'll be in what you're giving to Chris for approval, administrative approval.
You're welcome, Mr. Neal. Mr. Mastrella, can we move into seeker?
We can.
Yep, okay, thank you. Seeker review indicates the action under consideration is an unlisted action as per section 617.7C1 VIII. The Henrietta Planning Board, as lead agency, has determined that the proposed action described below will not have a significant effect on the environment and that a draft environmental impact statement will not be required. The action under consideration is a site plan application by Silver Roll Trucking. It is an unlisted action and will not require a conditioned negative declaration. The purpose of this application is for final site plan approval of a replacement commercial trucking building located at 85 Silver Roll Drive in an industrial mixed-use zoned district. All relevant areas of environmental concern were identified. Evaluation and examination were carefully made in relation of the existing conditions versus the proposed site improvements. It has been determined that there will be no adverse environmental effect as a result of the proposed action. I, James Grunert, therefore make the motion that we make a negative declaration and that the chairman be authorized to sign the statement of environmental significance.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Page. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. The board will entertain a motion on application number 20008.
Motion to approve application 20008, conditional on color rendering, approval by administrative.
Thank you, Mr. Borkowski. Do I have a sufficient second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Brill.
Chris, do you need a condition for a letter of credit as set forth in your?
No, I mean, it's something that we'll work out during the review process, but thanks, Dan.
I would like to say one thing. I don't know if it makes a difference. The property itself is owned by me personally, but the building is for Silver Roll Trucking. I don't know if it makes a difference to the board.
Yeah, no, thank you. It does not. Okay, so we have Mr. Borkowski had the motion and Mrs. Brill had the second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you, gentlemen.
Are we all set
Motion
then?
to adjourn. We're all set. Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank
Did we
you.
change into a discussion item before, or no? We're all good?
No.
Mr. McIntyre, thank you.
7:32, motion to adjourn by Mr. McIntyre. Yep, no problem, Scott.
Steve got it?
Hey, Patty. Secret who? The second? You did, right? Okay, thank you.
You want to? Yeah. Yeah.
You guys all set for me to stop the video?
We are. Thank you.
PDF
Okay.
renderings.